Who needs Steven Spielberg and Under the Dome when you have Our Android Week with Alan Furstenberg in New York, Bruce Turner in Lynchburg, Virginia, Duke Carrico in Kingsport, Tennessee, Cadeas Kalut and a veggie platter in Newport Beach, California, and from Menifee, California, Pam Adger. This is Our Android Week. Welcome, viewers, all of you. Okay, here's the deal. I asked last week, we needed a tablet for a sales rep for our area guys network of websites, and Alan recommended that we look at the, I don't even know how to, I bought something today for $300 and I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Is it NVIDIA or NVIDIA? What the hell?
NVIDIA is how I've always heard it pronounced.
Okay, so I'll just buy something. I don't need to know how to pronounce it. But anyway, that is badass tablet based on specs. It's got wonderful reviews on Amazon. And Craig asked me today, he said, because we jointly purchased it for the sales rep, and we said, he said, what's the claim to fame? Why are we buying this? And it's, first of all, it's got the fastest processor period of any tablet out there. It's got double front-facing speakers. This is designed for gamers, but it's like a Nexus 7 on steroids. It's pretty pure Android, probably some NVIDIA apps or whatever. It's got what the most shocking thing, Alan, is not only does it apparently have good audio with dual front-facing speakers and it's pretty loud, it's really fast, but it's got an HDMI out. I've never heard of that in a tablet. That's amazing to me.
Oh, there are HDMI outs in a ton of tablets.
I haven't seen that. I guess I've been stuck in the 90s, or I'm so May.
Yeah, you're so last man.
Yeah. So this is a badass tablet. I'm really excited about it. I ordered it. It finally got in stock in Amazon today, so I ordered it. And I'm looking forward to having it. So I will do an unboxing video or something. I'll pull a Craig. And I got Craig. Craig's technically paying for half of this, right? So he's buying an Android device, so we can troll him Friday, which will be fun. Craig Shipp, our Apple representative on Google Plus Week, our resident troll. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Alan. It's really, really cool. And talk about a new product. I mean, I think it came out like a week ago or 10 days ago now. So I'll be updating on that. All right, our first official story here is this HP smartwatch. Apparently this is a rumor, but some rumors turn out to be true, right? Apparently it's going to be compatible with iOS and with Android, but it's not going to be Android Wear, and it's going to be good looking, unlike the watches I've seen, except for the Moto 360. The LGG doesn't totally suck, but definitely the 360, in my opinion, is the best looking one that I've seen so far. The fit probably is nice, the new one, but it's probably cheap plasticky, like my Samsung Note 2. So I'm torn here, Alan. I like the concept that they're saying compatible with iOS and Android, but when they're saying it's not Wear, so they're going to do their own thing, I'm haunted by memories of the HP Slate tablet, which ended up being buried alongside, Atari 2600 video games. What do you think? Is this a thing?
Dead on arrival.
Okay. What do you really think?
After being a part of using Android Wear and Glass and everything else, I'm starting to understand that the only reason why smartwatches will is because of Google Now. So if you're going to build a smartwatch without Google Now, then you need to have some heavy competitor or rival that'll be able to handle it, because that's what makes the smartwatch what it is.
Yeah, why try to reinvent the wheel when Google's been doing this?
Right.
Various iterations.
So they said it's going to be compatible, which at least, okay, so we're saying it's going to work with the phones, but it's not going to necessarily do all the things that the Android Wear watch is going to do.
Yeah, we're past the proprietary era. Jump on board.
Well, here's the thing. There are probably still a couple of manufacturers that can get away with doing something proprietary, like Pebble. But Pebble can do it because they were the first ones to market. They were the only ones in this space, and they've got something that's approaching a mature app store.
And as you've pointed
HP
out, Alan, you've pointed out that there are a lot of iOS users who like Pebble, and there is not yet an iOS watch. And let's not kid ourselves. If Apple comes out with one, it's probably going to be pretty badass.
it had better be pretty badass, or they're going to look even more foolish than they do these days. But yeah, but we also know that it's going to be for iOS only. I think it's kind of a mistake that Wear is Android only. I think it's disappointing, but that's neither here nor there. What Pebble is doing though is they've got they took, what are they at now, Cadeas? 2 years? It's taken them something like 2 years to get this market to where it is, and they're barely there.
Is Wear
HP has no chance. No chance.
Is Wear currently or permanently Android only? Do you know that?
We don't actually. We know that it's currently Android only, but at least in theory, there is nothing that says that the communication protocol that it uses can't communicate with iOS.
Nor is there anything in Google's history that would suggest that if they were planning on making it iOS aware, they would have necessarily said that. So that's totally up in the air.
Well, I mean, in the past, Google's indicated that they're pretty committed to iOS in general. When Glass first came out, they said, yes, an iOS app is coming. We're just not there yet. We see, and it came. We see Google still supporting lots and lots of iOS apps. It's still, I think Maps is still one of the top downloaded apps for iOS these days. So Google's still got a big investment with iOS. On the other hand, I can see why they wouldn't really be all that eager to get their watches working with iOS. But I think that's a mistake, personally.
Joshua Hughes says Pebble needs to put out an Android Wear watch as quickly as possible, otherwise they are done. Do you agree with that, Alan?
What are your thoughts today? Yeah.
Done? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about done. I think there's still a need for them because iOS still doesn't have a watch, and as long as Android Wear stays exclusive to Android, I think that the Pebble is the iOS watch that is going to be here until Apple does something. Now, if Apple releases an iOS watch that's pretty good, and then you got the Android Wear that's really good, you're looking at slowly but surely Pebble phasing themselves out if they don't pick a side, so to speak.
Are we going to see a thing where companies like they do with phones, CyanogenMod, they come out with, you can root your phone, you can put CyanogenMod on, and someone's actually coming out with this CyanogenMod phone now. Are we going to see that same type of thing with wearables? Like someone could hack into can you hack into a Pebble and quote unquote jailbreak or root it? And is anyone doing that? Is that a thing?
I believe you can with the Pebble. In theory, you can with an Android Wear device. I think people have done it. I don't know for sure offhand. As for Pebble being done if they don't come out with Wear support, I don't know. I just don't know. The other thing is it would actually not be all that hard for them to come out with Wear support, probably.
Oh, I just saw this. This is going to be a whole thing. Google, this is Drudge Report on my bottom right of my screen. Google's, all caps, Google scans emails to catch criminals. I saw that today. We'll talk about that Friday. That's a whole thing. All right, so...
Watch, Dan, this HP watch is probably going to be running Palm OS. They just won't name it Palm OS. They just won't name the OS.
Because if you change the name of it, it's different.
Right.
It's not Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's KFC. It's so much healthier now.
Now remember, Motorola pulled this same card too. They were trying to shove Motorola Blur down everybody's throat at the same time that we had TouchWiz and HTC Sense, and then Motorola just started saying we don't talk about it. It doesn't exist, even though it was still there for 2 more phones.
It's not TouchWiz anymore. It's Samsung OS.
Okay.
If you beat something up long enough, they change the name. And
I thought Samsung OS was Tizen.
how much you want to bet?
That's what I thought.
How much you want to bet NSA is going to have a new name next year? All right. So we're all excited to get our hands on an HP luxury smartwatch. It'll look great wrapped around Alan's Nexus Q. Next is Android web usage surpasses iOS for the first time. This is interesting because what's noteworthy here is that there have been far more Android devices out there than iOS devices for quite some time, but only now is the actual usage. And I don't know what this says about what people are spending money on, because I know Apple users tend to spend more on the web than Android historically, Android users. So what's the wisdom from this report, Dr. Furstenberg?
There's actually really a lot of interesting little nuggets in this report. So for example, there's more symbolics usage than Windows Phone 8 on the web. So a Nokia operating system that Nokia no longer supports has a higher usage rate than an operating system that Nokia does support when it comes to web access. And we should point out, this is just for web access. This isn't how much phones are used or whatever. And presumably it's just browser web access at that even. So it's interesting. I think one of the things that it says is that the app culture is more taken hold in iOS, while a web culture still continues to exist on Android. So it's interesting. There's one possible way to read this. On the other hand, the difference isn't really all that big. They can go back and forth for a while now. It's not clear when we're talking about Android web hits if these are from official Android or if these are from the knockoff competitors who are just using Android because they can get it for free and don't have access to the Google Play Store, or exactly what it is. So I don't know. I think it's interesting. It's not conclusive on any front, but it's interesting.
They say that the future's the mobile web, not apps. Do you agree? We've talked about that for a long time.
I don't know who says that. Everyone I know says the future is apps.
Okay.
I disagree with that, but I think a lot of people still think the future is apps.
But you think the future is and should be mobile web?
I think the future is far more complicated than that.
I think.
Talk about a non-answer answer.
No, my
he said he answered the question definitively, but cannot be blamed either way for getting it wrong.
My opinion is that we've had this obsession with collecting apps over time. And truly, it's an obsession. And there's no good reason for it. We just have this compulsion, I need another app. I have to put little shiny things on my tablet face. I think that's a bad approach. I think increasingly our devices are going to be getting away from a user-focused concentration on apps. And instead, we're going to get more towards, what is my phone as a whole doing for me? What commands do I give it? What information do I get from it? Not, what's the cool app of the week? In that sense, it doesn't matter whether you're getting that via an app or a web delivery system. And it doesn't matter if that web delivery system is actually the web or if it's an app getting stuff over the internet. It's not going to matter.
Here's the thing, though. That tells me that the web browsers on these mobile devices aren't up to snuff yet, or that HTML isn't up to snuff, because ideally, in an ideal world, there would be no need to have an app. You could accomplish any local storage through caching, and the web should be able to do anything that a native app should be able to do, right?
It's about more than just... It's about, right now, let's put it this way. Android L will have 5,000 new APIs. 5,000.
And you just wanted one for Google Plus. You just wanted one little API.
iOS, the next release, will have 4,000 new APIs. The web cannot advance at the same rate because the web is an open platform. So that's why you're not seeing the web accelerating at the same pace. So no, there are always going to be things that you cannot do on the web that you can with a native app.
And it's also going to go both ways.
Exactly.
Right. So it's almost a give and take.
There are certainly some things that a web app is going to do better than a native app. And I encounter this every day when I see people who are trying to cram native app development into a model that's just infinitely better when it's web-based. Trying to shove a terabyte database onto your phone is a bad idea.
That's the thing. It's a whole lot easier to convince someone to go to Domino's.com on their mobile device than it is to download the Domino's app and then risk like I'm going to
No,
get
it's
push
just a different
notifications.
approach.
It's going to be a pain in the ass.
Well, it's a different approach though, Dan. It's just a different approach in that scenario.
It's a different approach. I mean, I agree with Cadeas on this one. You know, if I'm doing something as a one-off, I will go to a website. If I have a long-standing relationship with some company, I will want to use the app. Because presumably the app will be able to better give me information that is mine as opposed to the website, which won't necessarily be as tailored for me.
Okay. All right. Next up, Hulu makes its free content available in updated Android app. So there's that argument's over. I don't know why they weren't doing this before.
Because they're Hulu?
Yeah, I had no idea why they weren't doing this either, but I mean, it's to the point where people who use it, who want to use it now, they're paying for it. So what? Now you're telling them that they can get the free stuff that they originally could have got for free only on the web. I don't know. It's kind of a stupid move at this point. They should have just left it alone and not fan the fire again.
They're not
That
paying
was-
for it though,
Hulu?
right? I mean, there's free and there's a paid tier at Hulu, right? So they're just
Right, but
simply
the free
making
tier
that
wasn't
free stuff that was
available
free
on mobile.
anyway. Just like why the hell doesn't Amazon? I'm paying them $100 a year or whatever it is. Why can't I watch those great 70s B-list titles on my Android device? Why do I have to do it on my desktop? I can do it through
Because
some
it's
kludgy
Amazon?
thing.
We have this discussion every Friday night.
It's not been settled yet.
And in fact, remind me, I feel like last Friday night on Google Plus Week, available 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific every Friday night, you made a very, very strong argument that Amazon should be able to do whatever they want to do because, after all, they're doing it in the publishers, I mean the authors, I mean yours, I mean their best interests.
We were talking
Right?
about the Hachette.
You want to revisit
issue.
this on Monday, Alan?
But Dan,
But Dan,
you were making the case that Amazon should have free will to do the stupidest things on the world just because they're Amazon.
yeah, and I'm free to bitch about it. I'm exercising my First Amendment freedoms. I'm a First Amendment guy. That's how I earn my living. The First Amendment gives me hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. I'm very enthusiastic.
Yeah, but in this case you're wrong by your own argument.
No, I'm saying they can do it. I'd still voluntarily pay them. I just spent $350 today with Amazon. Amazon Prime is awesome, and I love it. And it's the worst thing you could ever do because click, 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 buy, just so easy. I'm reminded of the Onion story. Area Parkinson sufferer bankrupted from Amazon one click. We're getting ourselves in trouble. All right, so good for Hulu. Google releases the source code for its I/O 2014 app as a template for developers. I'm totally clueless about this. You guys knock this one out of the park. And let me tell you a funny story while Alan reads this article. Cadeas, while Alan peruses the article, Cadeas, did you use the I/O app, and
I
what
did.
were your thoughts about it?
What
I
do you
like
mean
it.
while Alan peruses the article?
Apparently, he didn't want you to comment on it.
Did you use did you use the app, Cadeas, and what did you use it for?
I did. I stayed caught up and I liked it. So I guess we're just moving on to the next story, huh?
No, I just don't understand why Dan thinks I actually need to read the article on this one.
Because you looked perplexed when I said I'm looking for Alan to handle this, and you went, and then you
No,
feverishly
I was
started
having
reading.
trouble unmuting my microphone.
Oh, okay.
So every year, Google produces an app for their I/O Developers Conference, and every year after the conference is over, they release the source code for the app. The reason why they do this is because the code serves two purposes. One, when you're at the conference, it helps you, locate your rooms and plan your schedule and find out who this person is that you're talking to and remember them later. And afterwards, it serves as a model for how they think apps should be developed. So this was a major importance that essentially they released this app it was one of the first apps that's using material design, which was the big focus at the conference. So here they are saying, okay, here's how you do material design. Here's an example. Steal the code. Go steal the code. In the past, they've done this, for NFC stuff. Here's the NFC code. Steal it. Use it. And once again, we're seeing those sorts of things here. That's a good thing. This is, they're making it available for developers, and that's what it's there for. So this is a good thing to say. Nothing new, but it's a good thing to say.
If when the layman, not the developer, when Joe Sixpack, me, Big Bird, when Pam and I see material design, or Android L, whatever, I guess they're not the same thing, obviously.
They're
but
not.
What's the starkest thing? What's the thing that people can, if someone sees it for the first time, what are you going to tell them? What's the gist of what's the oh my God moment?
The gist of material design basically boils down to a lot of it intuitively makes sense. Buttons should be easier to identify as buttons. Cards should be easier to identify as cards, and the important things should stand out a little better without being overwhelming. Menu items and things like that should be more consistent and feel more natural. It should really feel like you're dealing with a physical object more than we had over the past several UI iterations, without going to the ugly extremes
Drudge report.
that certain other operating systems have gone to. So you're going to see there's more of a flatness to it still. But even with that flatness, it's using depth in a very useful way to help provide you context. And this is a context that your eyes naturally pick up on and respond to.
Okay.
So, unlike things that, are utterly flat and dull, despite having lots of pretty colors, this has lots of pretty colors and has depth to it.
Okay. Pretty colors. All right. Next up, Europe.
I don't believe that whole thing, and the only thing you took out of it was pretty colors. Next subject.
I like pretty colors. I was born in Japan,
You're saying you have no depth to you at all. Next subject.
I'm dumb as a box of rocks. Okay. Next up, this is a recode, I guess, a rehash of a Reuters story here. European regulators training sites on Google's Android. European regulators preparing what could be a stern challenge to Google's blah, blah, blah. Two sources with direct knowledge said regulators are laying the groundwork for a case centered on whether Google abuses the 80% market share that it enjoys with Android, from maps to search. They've stepped up inquiries in recent weeks, sending a questionnaire, and one seen by Reuters. Respondents were asked whether there was a requirement set by Google, written or unwritten, that they not pre-install apps, products, or services on mobile devices that compete with Google software like its search engine, App Store, and Maps. This is, in my opinion, very similar to the fights we've seen. I guess the first one I'm aware of is Microsoft, right? Internet Explorer versus, and so on.
Netscape Navigator.
Netscape Navigator. So what? So I mean, I don't know. It's.
But correct me if I'm wrong, Cadeas. My understanding about people who license Google, essentially license Google Play, and get all of the, and are required to install all of the other apps with it, does that forbid them from installing, from providing other apps? My understanding is it does not.
It does not.
I think that's what they're trying to find out, though, right?
Because they're not the people who use the devices, because they're so old, so they don't know how it actually works. So they're just inquiring to see. Honestly, it looks as though they're picking to try to find something to go after Google for next. Is really what I'm seeing here. Because this is ridiculous. Why did not saying that with iOS? That's a better question. Why did not saying that with iOS? I mean,
well, no. It makes sense why they're not saying with iOS, because the manufacturer is the operating system. There's no third
Okay.
party there at all.
All right, I can see that.
Okay, you can't install Verizon stuff on it. You can't install, Samsung can't install something on iOS, by default. Nobody can crap it up. You can't, sure, any other iPhone manufacturer is free to install whatever they want on it, because there are no other iPhone manufacturers. That, and Apple does not have a dominant position in the market in Europe or anywhere else besides the US.
And then this is one of those things where I don't know. This is not. This is a mute battle. I don't understand why they continue to Samsung, LG. It's like Samsung and LG. They're saying that they want to have a freer pre-install or alternative online services on devices. I mean, this is stuff that they could just build if they really just wanted it. Like, I'm not seeing why this becomes Google's fault.
Well, it becomes Google's fault, and I use the term loosely, because if you're a member of the Android Open Source Alliance, if you're a member of the Alliance, you are required to do certain things. One of them being you're not allowed to create a dual boot phone, for example. So there are limitations, so there are restrictions in being part of the Alliance. But you're free to not be part of the Alliance. And you'll still get the source code eventually. Similarly, if you want to be part of the Play Store, you need to abide by the Play Store licensing rules. And let's face it, a lot of the companies want to be part of the Play Store. So the question then turns into, is Google using its position to unfairly force people to get into the Play Store and to unfairly force them to install these other apps? I think the answer is no, but I can see how it would be a legitimate question.
So then in this scenario, my question would be, Google built this playing field. They can make whatever rules they want. Why is it that all these other people who have nothing to do with what was built why do they feel they need to have?
Here's the thing, though. Google essentially built two playing fields. They built the search playing field and they built this other playing field. So the question is, are they using the fact that 85% of the world is using Google's search playing field to force people to use this other vastly inferior piece of crap known as Android?
I went through this when I was looking for the tablet. I was considering the Kindle Fire HD because the main requirements were that she be able to browse the web to show demo websites, and she be able to, play a video for a client. And I looked at the Kindle Fire HD, and it has front-facing speakers, really nice. But then I saw in the reviews they said they don't have the Play Store. You can't use Google Docs on it. You have to use the Amazon email program, and it does work with Gmail, kind of, sort of. It's okay. And I was like, hell no, no way. And I ruled that out. I wanted the as close to generic as possible, and I would love that. But most people don't care. They buy the bloatware. That maybe not. I think most people aren't even aware that there are Play Edition devices out there, and they don't work with Sprint. I cannot buy a device and put it on the Sprint, and Sprint doesn't sell a Play Edition that I know of. So I'm screwed because that's the only tower in my area. So anyway, the Kindle Fire caused all this, right? When they branched that off and Google got a wake-up call?
No, I think the Kindle Fire was another reminder. Well, I think the Kindle Fire was a compelling argument that, hey, other people might be able to do this successfully, but there had been Android clone tablets out for ages. All of them in China and India and other non-US markets. This has been a problem as far as Google's been concerned for a very long time.
They need a new name. They need a underlying OS name, and they need a name for the thing that is on my Nexus 7 and my Note 2. In other words, like, they're refrigerators that are powered by Android, but that doesn't mean it has a Play Store in the fridge, right? You know what I mean? There needs to separate this.
And they're trying to do that now. I mean, you're seeing branding that says, Play Store, and nice KitKat logos and so forth. So you're seeing boxes branded like that now, and they're trying to raise that kind of awareness.
I wonder if that was voluntary.
This, by the way, comes from a tablet which you could get last week. I'm not sure if it's still for sale this week at Staples for $50.
Wow, is it for kids or it's a regular tablet?
It's a regular tablet.
What version of Android's on it?
4.4 KitKat.
Wow.
See the KitKat logo?
How fast is it? You turn it on, you go to 7-Eleven, you come back, it's ready?
No, it's quad core. It's a decent tablet. It has a pretty crappy screen resolution, but it's decent. It's not wonderful, but
I knew Android had arrived when I walked into a Big Lots and they had an Android tablet. I was like, oh my god, it's here. It's not going anywhere.
I said on this show a year ago that you're going to be seeing these these tablets coming out with Play Store support and with the latest version of Android, and for $50 or $100. That's where you're going to see the sub $100 Android.
Okay. All right, before I go to the next story, there's just a random ADHD moment. A tweet from Brian Stelter of CNN, formerly the New York Times. How can you not click this? Drop everything and watch this baby seal learn how to surf. Done. I'm going to watch that later.
Just watch me not click it.
All right, so next up is this really well-written... I'm loving... The content game in the last year has really risen with Recode, Quartz, and The Verge. And they're not necessarily in a particular order, but I'm really excited. Just really good stuff. Ever since Arrington left TechCrunch, the whole internet went to shit. But now they're coming back. So anyway, there's this really good story, and this is about Samsung, which is they make most of their money from mobile stuff, but they're actually a very diverse. I mean, they make ships, they make all kinds of things. Like Toyota makes sewing machines. Who knew? But they're famous, obviously, for their cars in the United States. So the key quote here is, "The spec war's over, and Samsung has no peacetime plan." They're talking about how, and Alan, I would tie this into. I'll read a couple paragraphs here and then I'll sum up. To its credit, Samsung's leadership has shown no lack of foresight. The company has made constant and repeated efforts to make its Tizen, once known as Bada software, a viable platform to compete with Android, knowing the importance of having something unique to keep users engaged. Built its own app store, partnered with the likes of Amazon for the Galaxy exclusive Kindle offers, built a comprehensive suite of tweaks and additions to its basic OS running on its phones. The problem has been execution. The Samsung UI that was once known as TouchWiz has earned derision for being bloated, bloopy, and unintuitive. I can vouch for all those things. While the subscription-based Samsung Music Hub was recently shuttered due to lack of user interest, they're now struggling with the same sort of software issues that give it the opportunity to become a leading phone manufacturer in the first place. I would tie this, Alan, with they said that the tablet market's crashing. I have my original Nexus 7, as you do. Now, you just bought this one on a whim because it was an impulse price. But basically, my Nexus 7's fine. There are faster ones now. There are ones with much better audio. But I'm fine with it, my Nexus 7. I can read. I just use it to mainly read stuff, not watch stuff or listen to it. It's fine. So I just think it's not something you need to update all the time. And there's no contract with a tablet. So there's not like on 2 years, finally you're unleashed, you can buy a new one.
Yeah, but here's
what do you
the
think
thing.
about this whole thing?
I don't know. I'll say this. This article kind of says what I've been saying about Samsung for a couple of years now. Samsung has a policy of just continuously throwing crap against the wall and seeing what sticks. And maybe something will stick and maybe it won't. And they don't care because they've already started launching the next piece of crap.
Not unlike another company we know and love.
Yeah. Except Samsung tends to do it a little bit more effectively, actually. And this one is saying, look, people have started catching on to the fact that this is what Samsung is doing, and it's not working so well anymore. So Samsung needs to think up a better plan. And, unlike their competitors like HTC and LG, who are actually innovating, all Samsung seems capable of doing is copying. And that's not getting at anything from anybody.
Any thoughts, Cadeas?
Nah.
Cadeas
Samsung
is
sucks.
Cadeas is our spokesmodel for the program. All right, go Samsung. All right, this is hilarious. Cell phone talkers get their own sidewalk lane in DC. Um, they actually have this thing. It's a lane. If you're talking on your phone while you're walking, you're supposed to walk here. And then if people know that someone could bump into them, this is. Has it come to this? This is hilarious. Walkers, right? I guess there are no manhole covers, right? No open manholes on this lane, I would presume. I'm just going to go wild, make that prediction wildly.
Well, I don't know. This is DC, which has exploding manhole covers, so.
This is completely nuts. This is hilarious. I wish Pam were here. She'd be on the floor laughing in the fetal
Because you
position.
desperately need somebody to agree with you that this is actually funny, when Cadeas and I think this is really so what.
I'm sorry, Dad.
It's okay.
Hey, here's the thing, Dan. Both Cadeas and I have evolved past the need to stare down at our cell phones while walking. We have, better devices to help us with these sorts of things. So staring at your cell phone seems so, 2012 to us.
Yeah, that's why I said this would actually cure that problem, but I decided not to say that.
Okay. Don't mock me because I don't want a $1,500 Star Trek prop on my face.
I do apologize for the inconvenience, Dan.
No, you want a $2,000 Star Trek prop in your living room.
What do you mean? My blow up 7 of 9 from Japan. I'd buy one if they had one. Just a conversation piece.
What makes you think they don't?
I'm sure they do. You can have an anatomically correct 7 of 9 doll. Japan.com. Okay, next up. I thought that would be a funny story, but you guys used it. A rare opportunity to mock me on my own program. iOS developer has.
Okay, Dan, I've now found several hits for a 7 of 9 doll.
Are they anatomically correct life size? I'm not interested.
Well, let's see. The
otherwise.
first one is from a website called DeviantArt, so
It
I'll
has
leave
to
that
be-
one to you to figure out.
Has to be Amazon Prime. Free shipping. All right, and a brown packaging preferred. Plain packaging. From like ABC LLC or something. Next up is iOS developer has blog read more than his app is downloaded. That's interesting. This is a late edition, so whoever of you.
It's a real late edition. We discussed this a little bit on Friday, so it should be at least a little familiar to you, Dan. Basically, there have been several articles out in the past couple of weeks of indie iOS developers talking about the perils of developing for iOS. And the biggest one seems to be that unless you've already got a hit, it's really, really tough to get a hit. And the article that I have here basically is an indie game developer who's gotten some modest, good results with his games, breaks down the numbers for the games that he released, and it boils down to the total number of downloads for all of his games is lower than the number of people who had read the blog talking about how how few hits he was getting. And a couple of his conclusions were interesting. One of which is that the iOS top apps and featured apps in those categories was working against him. Because even though he might get featured in there briefly, it was very briefly, and he'd be swept off almost immediately. And lest we in the Android community laugh at this, we have to remember, we've got the same thing because Google just stole the freaking model right from Apple. So,
Isn't some
we
of
don't
this
really
just
have to be better at this.
maturation? In other words, the odds of you are becoming the next Marquez Brownlee or iJustine today are much dimmer than 5 years ago if you were a great content producer because YouTube has grown. I would draw an analogy.
It's more complex than that. I mean, I think that's part of it, certainly, but part of it also is that They were even talking about things like, did you do any promotion? Even with promoting it, even with advertising on Facebook and Twitter, they weren't getting the results. And it's more than just a maturation of the market. It's that there's something fundamentally flawed somewhere in here. And it's flawed with the market, or it's flawed with the advertising model, or I don't know what it is.
Isn't it kind of like radio? I mean, they can only play 40 songs an hour, and everyone wants the new whatever, and they're not going to play the, up and coming guy because, I mean, how many apps can you fit on your phone? How much time do you have in the day? And there's
Well,
so
and
much
again,
good stuff out there now. There's a lot of really, really good stuff you're competing against, and in that market, you're not competing against Oleg or Cadeas. You're competing against Flipboard and
well, and
CNN.
again, some of this are, some of these apps that are being talked about now, they're really, really good apps. It's not that these are, guys just throwing crap together. It's really good games or really good, useful apps that fit a particular niche that is significant and useful, and they're just not getting the traction that the developers expected them to.
What's the secret sauce when someone writes a Flipboard or writes a Waze or some breakthrough
Dan,
hit?
here's the thing. I believe it was Rockefeller who was one asked, what's the secret to making to making a small fortune? The secret to making a small fortune is to start with a large fortune. There is no secret sauce.
And you certainly would not reveal it on this program. By
I'd
the
reveal
way,
it. No, I'd reveal it because I've got. If it works that well for me, a rising tide should lift all boats. If I knew the magic, I would. You know what the magic is? The magic is developed for glass. And if you want to learn how to develop for glass, have I got a book for you?
yeah, let me pull that up while you discuss it for 1 second here.
No. That's next subject, Dan.
Go to O'Reilly.com and I bought the book. It's by Jason Salas and Alan Furstenberg. Not in that order, though, right? Your name's first?
My name is now listed first, yes.
Was that a coin toss? How was that? I think
No, that was Jason insisting that my name come first because it's alphabetically first.
because he's better looking, so he granted you that. He's a TV anchor. It's all lights and makeup. Okay, so Two Tall Guys wrote a book. It's at O'Reilly.com. You can O'Reilly Media. It's a good book. It's written in conversational English, at least the first part, and even I was able to get through much of it. I've not finished it, but if I can do it, trust me, you can read it. So I recommend it. And it's an evolving work, and will continue to be improved. And you get all the new versions until it's done. So it's a great investment. Okay, so next up is Supreme Court's new rules on abstract patents hit Apple and Samsung. What's the story here, Mr. Furstenberg?
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. You remember the Apple Samsung case where Apple
You have to be more
sued Samsung?
specific.
Where Apple sued Samsung for patent violations on things like slide to unlock? Well, turns out that Samsung looked at the recent Supreme Court case that said that patents cannot just be online manifestation or digital manifestations of something physical and adding the words using a computer to make it patentable. And Samsung has pointed out that a couple of the patents that were involved in the case, including the slide to unlock patent, are essentially physical products that have the words when implemented on a computer after them. So Samsung's now making the case that, hey, there are a few of these patents that should just be thrown out at this point, and the case reversed.
I think so. I mean, like, let's say the first wearable comes out or came out, right? And I said I could repatent everything that applies to a computer or a tablet or phone and say when used on a wearable. If you want to take it to its logical conclusion. But yeah, this is good, right? I still am for patents. I do think that the whole point of a patent is to provide an incentive for people to risk money and time to develop a new thing, and then they get a period of time when they can exclusively sell the hula hoop or whatever it is, and then everybody can sell the hula hoop after that. So everyone benefits eventually. Like the K-Cup patent ran out last year. Joshua Hughes has a question here, Alan. The fellow whose app wasn't downloaded enough, how much did he spend on marketing?
Go read the articles. I believe he indicated that depending on his most popular one, he spent nothing on advertising. His least popular one was the one he spent the most on advertising on. So an interesting inverse correlation there.
Did the guy spend any money? What was the crazy game that you recommended? It was number one on iTunes and the Play Store, and then he pulled it because he couldn't handle it. He just couldn't take it.
That wasn't my recommendation. You're thinking Flappy Bird.
Yeah, you did. It was your app of the week.
It was my app of the week in the sense of the app that nobody in their right mind should ever download.
I swear to God, I got it before he did it, and I played it. It's the hardest simple game. I mean, it's like Drudge Report meets Space Invaders or Pong, but it was cool. And if you get a chance, Google that. It'll show up, and you can watch that episode at the end when Alan does his app of the week presentation on that. It's pretty epic. It was one of my favorites. Okay, so anything else on this? Whatever the hell we're talking about,
Nope.
the Apple Samsung thing.
There's
Okay,
a place where I actually almost root for Samsung. Almost.
almost. Coming up on Friday, our other program. In the meantime, take the opportunity to buy the book by Alan Furstenberg and Jason Salas from O'Reilly Media. It's like $50 or something, right? $40. So coming up Friday on Google Plus Week, we've got Microsoft must release data held on its Dublin server. One of Google's mystery barges has been sold.
But Dan,
Or did we took? Oh my
Dan,
God!
that was last
That was last
Friday's
Friday.
show.
We only have one story here. Cat and Fox YouTube creators.
Dan, it's Monday. It's Monday, Dan. we got
You're right,
a
I'm
week.
looking here.
The week is young.
Well, what you should do.
But
is-
already we have a story coming up, and that's that Google is willing to scroogle for law enforcement. So we'll find out what that's all about on Friday.
Absolutely. In the meantime, please check out our Flipboard magazine, which has 608 readers. Quite impressive, actually. Just look for Google Plus Week on Flipboard, and I and others will flip things that are story candidates, things we might discuss into the magazine throughout the week, and you'll know firsthand. You'll be like a VIP viewer. And thank you so much for your comments. We really appreciate it. Google Plus Week is every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Eastern Daylight Savings Time. And this program is at 9 p.m. on Monday night. Our Android Week, Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. So we thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Whenever you watch, live or throughout the week, we appreciate it. And until next week, have an awesome Android Week.